All right, let's do a show, everybody. Welcome to Inside Coverage on Yahoo. It is the how, it is the why, it is the behind the scenes and everything you need to know around the National Football League. We record this on a Monday here in Week 6 as we are getting ready to shut the door on said week with 2 Monday night games. I hate the 2 Monday night games. Hi, I'm Andrew Siciliano, by the way, but we'll navigate that a little bit later. What we're navigating today is a head coach getting fired. We're also navigating the three of us coming together again. I don't know the last time. And guys, if it was last week and I've already forgotten it, don't take it personally, that Charles Robinson and Frank Schwab, and hi again, I'm Andrew, because sometimes I forget to say my name, that we are all together. So gentlemen, it is great to have you both here and for us to do a Monday show.
Not too bad. Not too bad. Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I know Andrew hates the Monday night doubleheaders. The one good thing about the COVID weird season was we were getting games remember Pittsburgh played on a Wednesday afternoon at 2:00. We should do that.
But that was not a good
matinees.
game. That was the Steelers
matter.
and the Ravens had 48 guys out for that Wednesday matinee. That was not a good game, Frank.
They should have played Bills Falcons at noon today. Who wouldn't tune into that? You'd skip work. It'd be great. Let's do that.
Don't give them any ideas, Frank. They will do that. If there's money in it,
they would.
It's gonna happen.
They would. Yeah. They'd be selling that to Instagram. They'd be like, "Hey, you want to buy this for $1 billion?" Yeah, they'd get.
As I think I say on my X profile, or maybe it's Threads. It could be Blue Sky. Honestly, I'm not sure. There's so many of them now. I don't remember where is where. What is what? It's any given Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or Saturday. Any of the above actually would work. But in this case, we're just talking about 2 Mondays. By the way, let's thank you for listening to this. If it's in podcast form, like and subscribe and share and all that. If you're watching on yahoosports.tv, we thank you for that as well. The Yahoo Sports app, on the Yahoo YouTube page, on your smart TV, however it is you're consuming this Monday NFL audio and visual product, we thank you. Okay, let's get to the news. Brian Callahan's out as the head coach of the Tennessee Titans after they lose to the Raiders. Might he have been out if the ball hadn't gone off Kyler Murray's face a week ago and they pulled out a miracle win over the Cardinals in Arizona? Might have happened last week. Yes, it might have happened last week. But last year we had seven different NFL head coaches fired. Right now, we have our first vacancy. The numbers on Brian Callahan, not good. They are 3 and let's see the record, 1-5 with the number 1 overall pick, and 4-19 Callahan was as head coach of the Titans. Honestly, I'm kind of surprised he made it into this season, considering there is a new GM and a new team president. Actually, can we just put up all the moves that have been made in Tennessee? Because you want to talk about a revolving door. John Robinson fired. Honestly, this goes back to the A.J. Brown trade on draft day. They traded A.J. Brown, then John Robinson gets fired, then Rand Carthon gets hired, then Mike Vrabel gets fired, and then Chad Brinker, who's already in the building, he came from Green Bay, gets promoted to president, then Brian Callahan is hired, then Rand gets fired, then Mike Borgonzi comes in from Kansas City, and then Brian Callahan now gets fired. That is not exactly a picture of stability. And you knew it might be over when in the locker room after the game yesterday, Jeffrey Simmons, who is your best player, we could agree, he is your best player on your team, said this.
Yeah, I mean, that is disappointing. I mean, when you could, in this league, you have to learn how to stack wins, and to be able to carry that momentum over, you have to do, start at practice. I probably, just being honest, this probably was one of our worst week of practice. Came out flat Thursday and things like that in that nature to, sometimes things carry over, and when you get in this league, you have to prove it every week and reprove it. You got to go out there and keep proving yourself, your team, that you can win this league, and we didn't do that on all 3 phases, and today was bad football. We didn't play good today at all. So.
Charles, are you surprised it took this long?
No, because the sense I get from the front office is that and this is just from today, the sense I got was they really wanted to avoid firing a coach in season because they know what that can do inside a building. When a head coach gets fired, typically what ends up happening is you have a multitude of assistant coaches who now have an entire other priority put onto their plate. And that priority is, what the hell am I doing now? What do I do? Because we're going to get fired. Like the presumption on coaching staffs is we're all losing our jobs here. It's not like when a GM gets fired and in personnel departments, you can basically fight to keep your job and remain under the next regime and have a little period of time there, typically up through the next draft to show what your worth is. Coaching staffs, when the head coach goes, the vast majority of assistants are getting cleaned out by the next coach. So what happens is you get guys, they recede into their offices. There's a little less, I think, communication around the building because everyone's trying to understand, like, where am I going with this? And now that takes away from your priority of doing what? Developing players. So I really think the front office here really wanted to hold off on this as long as they could. But I will say, when I saw it had happened today, I couldn't help but think to myself, you probably had to do it right now because you can't do it after you face Mike Vrabel. If Mike Vrabel comes to town and the New England Patriots beat you next week, then if you fire Brian Callahan, it looks like you are firing him because Mike Vrabel just beat you. It's a reaction to losing to Mike Vrabel. And on top of that, and I can tell you, I truly believe this is from the ownership end of it, I don't think they want to give Mike Vrabel the satisfaction and the ego stroke of coming in, beating Bill Callahan, and then seeing Bill Callahan fired. I truly believe that.
But isn't it in a weird way, Frank, an admission that we were wrong? Look, we're firing you before Mike Vrabel has the ability to make us fire you. So in essence, I mean, you're kind of sending the same message one way or the other.
Yeah, I just, it's true. The Vrabel, look, we need to talk about Vrabel because I think Tennessee's problems all go back to that day when he got fired, when all of us were like, what are you doing? Mike Vrabel's a good coach. And we know it was a power struggle. He got rid of the GM. There was a power struggle with a year later. I think that move shows how dysfunctional the Titans organization is, just from the ownership level on down. And Brian Callahan was not a good coach by any means. Like he didn't deserve any more time. He was 4-19. Mike Vrabel is 4-2 with the Patriots. That's where they screwed up. If Mike Vrabel should have been the Titans coach for 20 years. I believe in him. I think he's that good. And the fact that they didn't see that is what's really troubling here. And it gives me no confidence that they can make the right hire next. Like, why? Why would I? Why would I feel like the Tennessee Titans can do the right thing? We showed that list. It's just they're doing things just on a whim. Oh, okay, now we're going to fire a GM. Now we're going to fire the coach. They don't know what they're doing, including last year. You get to the end of the year, and maybe Brian Callahan deserved another year. Maybe he didn't. He could very much argue either way. But I think that if you had any question about that, and you knew you were drafting a quarterback number one, why don't you just clean him out? You don't want to deal with a 2024 Bears situation like Matt Eberflus, where all of a sudden you realize really quickly, oh no, we got the wrong coach and we're going to waste this number one overall picks rookie year. And that's exactly what happened with the Titans. From the first couple games on, you could tell this is just not a professional organization right now. This situation is so bad that Cam Ward's rookie year is entirely wasted. And it's not like you talked about, Charles. It ain't gonna get any better because all these assistants now know their fate. Like they know what's coming. Yeah. So everything's bad. Everything's bad.
And listen, I don't think we should treat this situation any different than we treated David Tepper and the Panthers in that dysfunction. In some ways, Dan Snyder and the dysfunction in Washington. Now, I'm not saying they're all in the same category, but there's a dysfunction at the ownership level in Tennessee with Amy Adams Strunk that is shocking. She doesn't talk to the media a lot. You watch John Robinson, the general manager, lose a power struggle with Mike Vrabel. Then you watch Mike Vrabel lose a power struggle with Rand Carthon. There are so many people that are being bought out and paid for who are not there. It's stunning. Like you said, Angie, you put the graphic up. And you know what's even crazier about this? They're dealing with trying to fill a new stadium right now. Money is tight in that organization. So you have rank and file people in that building who are sitting there going, man, it feels like they're squeezing right now financially. It feels like, we're getting nickel dimed here. in a few different ways. It feels like maybe our benefits aren't as good as they used to be. And then they sit there and they stare at the stadium that's being built, and they sit there and stare at the buyout for Brian Callahan, the buyout for Mike Vrabel, all the other buyouts that have occurred before it. And you sit there and go, why is my morale supposed to be good right now? When all I do is see an assembly line of people come through here. It's a total turnstile situation at the leadership positions. And we're building the stadium. And I mean, I don't even know if we're going to talk about the crazy email that, Paul Kuharsky put out today, regarding the Titans. We can get into that. But it is a mess. And I think it starts with the owner and really a lot of, I think, anger and fingers need to be pointed at the ownership level.
I was looking down here.
In that organization at all. No clarity.
No, there is. I was looking down here real quick because as we're speaking and as we're taping this, the Titans have officially named, as expected, Mike McCoy as their interim head coach. He's the former Chargers head coach, well-traveled, well-respected offensive mind. He was hired in the spring as a senior offensive assistant, so he's been in the building. He is going to take over. That's always the question because fans always say, well, fire the guy. Okay, well, who's going to take over? And especially considering you have the number one overall pick here, and he is a quarterback. You don't just fire the head coach and then toss the keys to some random defensive assistant. And Denard Wilson, by the way, highly respected on the defensive side of the ball, and say, yeah, we'll just deal with the quarterback later. You need to get something out of this season from Cam Ward, who has at times shown glimpses. I mean, if you talk to the Dan Orlovskis or the Chase Daniels of the world, guys who break down the quarterback tape, they will tell you that there are a couple of throws, there are a couple of series every week where you go, okay, I see it. That's not just, hey, he was the first round pick play. Like, that is really good stuff where there is something here to build on. So that now falls on Mike McCoy's plate. As for the Paul Kuharsky thing, for those who don't know who Paul is, he's a longtime beat writer. He has his own site there. He's one of the beat writers that has taken the whole thing under his own umbrella, and you could pay to go to his site, and he is a beat writer here. But he had this tweet, which is purportedly from a season ticket holder, someone that the Titans were trying to convince to buy into the new stadium. And this text was allegedly this afternoon saying, hey, you said you'd be in if we fired the coach. Well, look, we fired the coach. Kuharsky and Callahan, and before him, Mike Vrabel, have had their moments sparring on the podium. Earlier this season, after a loss, Kuharsky kind of read back to Callahan some of the things he said in his introductory press conference about like kind of what his vision for the team was. And he said, hey, Brian, was today's effort, did that meet the standard that you set day one, basically? I'm paraphrasing. And he said, Paul, I'm not going to fall for your BS right now. So look, that relationship has not been healthy. But your point, Frank, about the number one overall pick, why don't you just do it? It's a really good point. Like last year, Matt Eberflus and Caleb Williams, you could have just started anew right then and there. If you even go back to Trevor Lawrence, they did start anew there with Urban Meyer. It just didn't even last until October. Right. So if you're going to take a quarterback number one overall, you have to put him in position to succeed from day one. And if you have any doubt that the guy that you have isn't the guy to develop that quarterback, then you need to tear the entire thing down. This is just my 2 cents, nothing about Brian Callahan. But if you have a doubt, like I had someone in the league tell me years ago, if it's inevitable, make it immediate. And if you have that number one overall pick there, my opinion, you need to do something with that to make sure he has a clean slate and a good start from the beginning.
And that's understandable, but there's always counters to that because that's what was supposed to happen in Carolina with Frank Reich, right? Hey, we paired the quarterback with the new coach, and we've got all this figured out now, and it didn't work. And so there's still no guarantee that ultimately comes out the way that you want it to. I would say right now that the mission of Chad Brinker in the front office and Mike Borgonzi, the general manager, what the mission has to be is to replicate what the Los Angeles Rams did when they changed gears from Jeff Fisher to Sean McVay. And they had Jared Goff, who had gone through a disastrous first season, former number one pick. And they basically set out and they said, we're going to bring in offensive candidates. We're going to look at guys. But what we want is a vision. We want someone to sit down and show us what the vision is. Sean McVay shows up for his second interview. He comes to town in LA, takes Jared Goff to a courtyard, opens his laptop, and he says, here we go. I'm running you through everything. Here's everything I'm looking at from plays. We're doing all the cut-ups together. Here's what I see for you moving forward. And for years, even though the Goff-McVay, that relationship saw its beginning and middle and end, and it had heights and lows, they knew that McVay was the right guy for that job. Less, Snead, I've recounted many times in conversations with him where he said, look, Sean came in with a plan. We knew the vision. The guy had it. And he didn't just have it for the organization. He had it for the most important player in our organization. And at that time, it was Jared Goff. And that's why they hit the ground running so quickly. I think if you're the Titans, that is what you need to replicate now. You lay down, and I have no doubt it's going to be offensive candidates. They're going to totally curve it into the future of Cam Ward. You have to be able to capture the person who can capture your organization back and lay out the road in front of you.
I was going to ask you real quick, Charles, how attractive do you think this job is? Because you've got Cam Ward. That's great.
I was going to ask that too.
You are moving into a new stadium, and that, okay, I guess, whatever. But bad ownership. And you have the rest of the roster really is not good. Jeffrey Simmons is awesome. There's a couple good players, but there's not a lot of star potential here. The Titans haven't been good in a while. And even I think we honestly have to say, do we know Cam Ward's great? Yeah, I know the tape bros love Cam Ward and the splash plays, but play to play, he has not been good. And maybe that's all coaching and the people around him. But I don't think it's like, oh wow, Cam Ward, you get to come and coach Jaden Daniels in the second year. No, he's not,
but it's 6
not
weeks.
Quite there.
It's
yet.
6 weeks.
I get that. I totally get that. But I don't know if a young offensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach, whoever you're going to hire, is going to say yes. That's an absolute no doubt, like Ben Johnson did with Caleb Williams. And you also talked about the money. The Titans, they can't pay the top guy on the market, maybe. I don't know. How good of a job is this, Charles?
I think in any coach, it's always the three pillars, right? Owner, general manager, quarterback. Like what are the three pillars? What do they look like? So if you believe in Cam Ward, that's great. If you believe in Mike Borgonzi, that's great. But I have a problem with ownership here. And I think that's the first one. Of those three pillars, there is not a load-bearing pillar more important than who the owner is. And Andrew showed you the graphic. That is why I think it is going to be perceived by some as not a stable job, not a good job. Because they'll say, look at who they've rotated through. Look at how each of those situations have gone down. It's not even linear. Like the firings have been all disjointed. I mean, Rand Carthon hired Chad Brinker, and Chad Brinker effectively fired Rand Carthon when he elevated to the what is basically the czar of the entire football and business.
It was kind of so. I mean, it was straight Game of Thrones stuff. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah,
it was straight Game of Thrones.
Crazy.
I had one person text me and say this is a coup.
I mean, how else can you look at it? I mean, it's how it presented itself. And so when candidates come in, they're going to sit there and say, I don't know. I mean, especially with someone who doesn't have a track record. That's the problem, which is why I think you'll probably hear Arthur Smith's name a lot, right? Because Arthur Smith's been through the organization. He, knows ownership. He's been fondly thought of since departing as their offensive coordinator to take over the Atlanta Falcons years ago. And now, obviously, he's in Pittsburgh and having success with Aaron Rodgers. I would not be surprised if he is a name that gets prominent attention. And again, he's got the track record. So maybe you can get over that wariness of ownership. But I just don't see, again, going back to the graphic that Andrew showed you, I don't see how anyone could look at that. And it's just bodies. It's a pit of bodies. How do you not look at that and go, I'm going to be next? Like, I'm right. There's a spot for me right there.
If Mike Vrabel couldn't make it, how could I make it, right?
Well, he did make it, actually. And then they decided to move him out. Real quick, I want to get back to Cam Ward, and I want to play the soundbite that a couple of weeks ago had me cracking up, and it still does crack me up. This is Cam Ward assessing the team's offense after a week 4 loss. Go ahead.
I mean, if we keeping the buck right now, so we 0-4. We have this point, we got nothing to lose. We dropped a quarter of our games, and we've yet to do anything. So we have to lock in, especially myself on the offensive line, from the defensive line, from the special teams to all three faces. We have to play together. We have not played together this year yet, and that's just something that we want to preach about it every day. Every day we got to do better, and we're doing that. But it has to show up on Sundays. It hasn't showed up yet, but it got to show up next week.
I want to make this part of the conversation quick here. I think that's hysterical. I think it shows his toughness, his leadership, his accountability. I think all those things there are positive. And I'll still go back to, can you imagine Matthew Stafford saying that, or Joe Flacco, or Geno Smith? I think it's great. But Charles, around the league, did you get any pushback? Like, and again, part of the how attractive is this job question is, do you like Cam Ward? Did you hear any pushback from people going, I don't know. That's not the guy I want?
I think from the people that I spoke to about it, we texted, and it was funny because this video got shared a lot, like once it was said in the circles, whether it's coaches or general managers, personnel people, scouts, everybody's texting it back and forth, kind of laughing at it, because what he said was it was so blunt and it's stunning, and it's a rookie number 1 overall pick. But I think when people got past the humor, the general assessment behind it was, it's not good that your rookie quarterback is the one saying this right now. Like, it's just not good. If organizationally, that is a horrible indictment on what is going on inside your building, that you have a rookie number 1 overall pick. And I think people, the traditionalists who look at it and stare at Cam Ward being the starting quarterback, they say the content, okay, it was right. But the way it was messaged out, probably not something you want to be doing from behind a podium, right? Like that's becomes the lesson learned, because it creates some divisions. And Jeffrey Simmons said he spoke to him after that. Brian Callahan said he spoke to him after that. But you could feel at that point that the ship was sinking.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, you can't have, if your quarterback after 4 games is going up and saying that, everything's bad. If Jeffrey Simmons, who has been around for a long time as one of the team leaders, is coming straight out and saying, yeah, our practices sucked this week and we came out flat. Like, what? Like, oh my goodness. Like, it is such a mess in Tennessee. And by the way, just to double back on Cam Ward, I like Cam Ward. I think Cam Ward's going to be good. But Cam Ward does have some responsibility in all this. He has not played well. And maybe that's 100% coaching. Maybe that's 100% supporting cast. The offensive line has been banged up. I get it. There's a lot of excuses. But Cam Ward hasn't really played well yet. Like that's just a fact. Like he's had a couple splash plays, a couple great throws where you're like, whoa, that guy's got a cannon for an arm. He's got to play better too. And I just think that it's for anybody. I don't know if this is going to be like the New Orleans job a few months ago, where like basically nobody wanted it until they got the Kellen Moore, who's like, fine, you're 1 of 32. I'll take it. I don't know if it's that bad, but I don't think it's that good. I just don't see any good young offensive coach with a lot of options saying, Cam Ward has been so good that I have to take that job. I don't care about ownership. I don't care about the rest of the roster or the situation or the crazy turnover or whatever. I just think it's going to be one of those jobs that they're 1 of 32. And hey, we do have Cam Ward. And if you like him, come take our job. I think it's a bad job right now.
1 of 32, and last year's number 1 pick does carry some value. How much value remains to be seen.
Maybe next year's number 1 pick too. Ugh.
Sure. Yeah. The Titans are the first one in the pool, right? And you would have to think, some benefit to getting out ahead of everyone else. Coming up next, the rare coach on GM criticism from one team to the other. And also coming up, speaking of things that quarterbacks shouldn't say on the podium, did you hear what Tua did yesterday? It's Inside Coverage on Yahoo. It's Inside Coverage on Yahoo. Andrew Siciliano, Charles Robinson, Frank Schwab. After the Steelers beat the Browns yesterday, the game I was at 23-9. I joked a couple of weeks ago that the Steelers will clinch the AFC North in November. I mean, if they beat the Bengals on Thursday Night Football to open up Week 7, I think I'm going to be right. But that is neither here nor there. Yesterday, Dillon Gabriel behind a banged-up offensive line, and during that game, Jack Conklin left, went to concussion protocol, at least to get checked out, and then Cam Robinson, the former Jaguar, Viking, and Texan, got rolled up on, and he had to leave. The Steelers brought the house against a rookie undersized quarterback, and the results were somewhat as expected. The Browns still have their chances. They hung around, but in the end, the offense couldn't get in the end zone, and they have not scored 20 points since anybody? The day Jameis went off and threw for 500 yards on that Monday night last fall in Denver. So it has been that long. The Browns have trouble scoring points. Let's fast forward to Week 7. Week 7, gentlemen, opens up with Mike Tomlin and now the AFC North front-running Steelers on the road in Cincinnati, divisional game on a short week, against Joe Flacco and the Bengals. Remember, Joe Flacco, traded last week from the Browns, the man who started their first 4 games of the season, and behind that same O-line I just described was not that good. It wasn't all his fault, but he also, if you look at the advanced metrics, was ranked near the bottom of most starting quarterbacks in most categories in the league. He was flipped to Cincinnati for a 5th-round pick. Mike Tomlin, your thoughts?
What did you make of the rarity of seeing an intra-divisional trade of an experienced quarterback inside the division?
To be honest, it was shocking to me. Andrew Berry must be a lot smarter than me or us, because it doesn't make sense to me to trade a quarterback that you think enough of to make your opening day starter to a division opponent that's hurting in that area. But that's just my personal feelings.
Okay. Yet you don't ever hear that. You don't ever hear a head coach in season on the podium taking shots at another team's general manager. Now, look, maybe at the owners' meetings when big picture conversations are being had, maybe there's some shade thrown, but not ever that direct in season like we heard today from Mike Tomlin. My initial reaction was, yeah, he'd rather be preparing for Jake Browning this week. Instead, he's preparing for Joe Flacco. So thank you, Andrew Berry. You're making me prepare for Joe Flacco. But when he says maybe he's smarter than me and then us, because remember, the reporter there asked the question, meaning maybe all of you as well, it seemed a bit personal and uncomfortable. Charles, how'd you read it?
Yeah, Mike, the reason why he's not worried if he's smarter than you or Omar Khan or the reporters in that press conference was because it wasn't about you and it wasn't about the reporters, had nothing to do with the Steelers. And again, I thought the same thing you did, Andrew. I was like, they got the Bengals on the schedule twice. So they went from facing a team with a crippled quarterback situation to what could at least be a competent quarterback situation. And that's a threat. I think the difference between Browning and Flacco in terms of experience and then also how the skill set matches up with the skill position players on that Bengals offense at least make the Bengals a bigger threat than they were prior to this. And look, I'll just leave you with this. Andrew Berry took the Browns over in 2020. Since then, they have 1 playoff win. It was against the Steelers. You know how many playoff wins the Steelers have since 2020? 0. None.
Wow, look at that.
So just check the receipts.
Trash.
I'm just saying. I mean, look. Here's the thing. I want to be clear.
I'm glad you brought that up, Charles, because I do too. I respect them both, and I was there for that game yesterday. And if I have to hear the stat one more time about the Browns not winning that building in 23 years, I get it. Okay, they haven't won in the regular season there in 23 years. But I always point out the one game that did matter. In January of 2021, after the 2020 season, they did win, okay? And Ben Roethlisberger that night was sitting on the bench in tears at the end of the game. Now, there were no fans there. I don't care. They won the game. And as much as people in Pittsburgh want to compare T.J. Watt to Myles Garrett, yesterday T.J. Watt had the better game statistically, okay? That can't be argued, all right? They beat up on a banged-up offensive line, and when the Browns had to throw the ball every almost cursed, stinking play in the fourth quarter, that D-line and those linebackers teed off. But Myles Garrett still has 1 more playoff win than T.J. Watt. I don't mean head-to-head. I mean period. 1 more playoff win than T.J. Watt. Now I'm getting a little sidetracked here. I know. Tomlin doesn't want to have to face Joe Flacco. And one more other side of things. If you step back and you forget that it's in the division, which is hard to do. All of us, we agree, were stunned, right? You were stunned, Charles. Frank, you were stunned. We were all surprised when the trade was made. Yes?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So, right. You never see it in division. When you step back and you do look at the numbers and you look at it from a cold analytical position, if you can make the argument, how the heck did they get a 5th-round pick for Joe Flacco? Seriously? I love Joe.
Yeah.
I don't think. Matter of fact, I know it wasn't all his fault through the first 4 games in Cleveland. And I do think that he is somewhat set up for success better in Cincinnati with those 2 wide receivers than he was in Cleveland. But the Bengals have allowed more sacks than the Browns, at least they had before last week, right? So the Browns got a 5th-round pick. Oh, it's just a 5th-round pick. Fine. But they got one, and I don't know that anybody else would have given them a 5 for Joe Flacco. This trade would feel a lot different if it was to, say, the Arizona Cardinals, right? Out of division, out of conference. But Frank, unfortunately, it isn't. It's to the Bengals, and Mike Tomlin still doesn't like it.
Yeah, we all questioned it. Like, why would you help them? I think at the end of the day, the Browns are like, Joe Flacco ain't helping anybody, which is more of an indictment on the Browns that they, Mike Tomlin said it. Well, how could you do that? You pegged this guy to be your starting quarterback on opening day. Well, that was a mistake. Like, did you not watch the Joe Flacco tape from the Colts? Like, they literally benched that guy for Anthony Richardson after they tried to bench Anthony Richardson. And we're like, no, we can't deal with Joe Flacco anymore. Anthony, go back in. So, yes, the Browns, look, the Browns are going to do what they do. The late round pick swap, cool, great. I thought it was weird. They probably had their reasons for doing it. But I really don't. I just think it's fun. I'm glad. I think there needs to be more of this in the NFL. There needs to be more beefing. There needs to be more shots fired. Like, let's get the NBA level. Those guys don't care. They love letting it fly. Let's get the NFL involved in that a little bit. I love it. I thought it was great for Tomlin to say it.
And let's be fair here too. Like, you're taking shots at another organization. I just, like, to me, why? Like, why do you need to do this? Number one, like, what was accomplished here? And then number two, you've been through Mitch Trubisky, Kenny Pickett. You drafted Kenny Pickett in the first round and then couldn't get away from him fast enough. Justin Fields, Russell Wilson,
Mason Rudolph.
Mason Rudolph. And now, congratulations. Now you got Aaron, you got Aaron Rodgers working out well. Maybe you're feeling yourself here. But should you really be criticizing another team's decisions with their quarterbacks when you really haven't figured it out yourself in forever, since Ben Roethlisberger was a high-tier quarterback? I mean, it's just, and here's the thing too. Like I said, I do respect Mike Tomlin. I respect Omar Khan, the general manager there. I know people in that organization. I just do not like, other than for what Frank said, the ability to sit back and eat some popcorn and be like, yeah, all right, this is getting pretty chippy here. And this is, yeah, okay. But I mean, I don't like how he rolled it out there. I just think, I mean, from a standpoint of
it. Whatever. Who cares?
Okay.
Like, the Cleveland Browns are mad at us. What? Maybe they're going to win sometime.
Frank,
in the next
you clearly don't like the
Pittsburgh.
Browns. We've worked together 2.5 months. Just say it. You don't like them.
I like the Browns. The Browns are good. The Browns are fine. I love their fans. I love you, Andrew. I'm just saying, like, who cares if the Browns are mad at you? What are they going to do? Like, oh no.
That is such a schoolyard.
Maybe they'll win 6 games
attitude.
this year.
What are you going to do about it? We'll send Patrick Queen over to your house to elbow you in the head. He's really good at that.
Frank also,
okay.
Like Frank and I, we all work in a world too, where if some other journalist calls us out publicly, we lose our minds. Like we're rolling up into a Starbucks ready to fight right at the combine.
It's really good.
We're ready to do.
I don't know what you guys do. I haven't really seen you call people out. I, generally speaking, have a rule. I will never call out another broadcaster on Twitter. I just think it's low class. I will never do that. All of us sit at home, okay, and watch a game, or you guys reading other people's writing and go, what is that? All of us do it, right? We're human beings. But I'm not going to put it in the streets. I won't either. And I wonder, Charles, I wonder, do you read into the word smarter? Because
yes,
Kevin.
Absolutely.
Okay. No. Let me explain for those who don't know. Kevin Stefanski, Andrew Berry, Paul DePodesta are all Ivy League guys. Okay,
Ivy League guys.
And there is some snark when things don't go well there from the outside. Yep. Ivy League guys. Did you read that from Tomlin there? Because I think if that's the case, it's just ridiculous.
It's the same thing I hear about Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, right? It's the same thing I hear about Andrew Berry. It's the same, these guys could have gone to Wall Street, but they're smarter than everybody else, so they get these general manager jobs. Yeah, I think absolutely the traditional football track guys the maybe non-Ivy Leaguers. I do think there is some of that there. I think it's really interesting because that is always, whether it's Kwesi, whether it's Andrew, there have been some other guys in the past, but it is always they're smarter than everybody else. They're just smart.
Even Howie, by the way, a non-football
Howie, that's what I was
guy.
going to say. Howie Roseman was another guy that for years, Howie's just smarter than everyone. Well, what's Howie doing? I heard Howie today evaluate a football player on, NFL Network. How the hell can Howie evaluate a football player? He's never been a football player. I'm like, oh, just all right. So we're all right, great. Like that's how it's going to be now. Like I think there's some of that to it. Absolutely.
Since when was getting an education a bad thing? By the way, Kevin Stefanski played safety at Penn, and he was a damn good safety, right? Andrew Berry
played at Harvard.
Football
he played a corner at Harvard.
Right? I mean, yes. Yeah, Andrew Berry played football. Yes, they both played football. They happen to play football at Ivy League schools. They are football guys who just happen to be intelligent enough to get Ivy League degrees. So be it. Anyway, the Browns quarterback situation is, as I laid out, Dillon Gabriel is the guy, didn't get a lot of help. And the thing that is concerning here is that he threw the ball 52 times. Now, watching the game back today, the Browns clearly went 2-minute and shotgun and marched down the field at the end of the second quarter. They stalled in the red zone, which was the theme of the day, and they got a field goal out of that. But the Browns come out in the third quarter, tried to run a couple of times with varying degrees of success, and then finally fall behind, and they just have to, throw nearly every down. But 52 times is not sustainable for Dillon Gabriel or any rookie quarterback, Cam Ward or any of last year's rookie quarterbacks. Yeah. And this jumped out on the page to me last night flying home. Derek Carr, and this is from NFL Network Research. They used to have an NFL Research handle on X. Now it's the NFL Plus Research, whatever. Derek Carr with the Texans in 14, the Raiders in 14. David was with the Texans. Derek with the Raiders, 54 and 56 attempts. Joe Burrow had 61 attempts in a game. Week 2 as a rookie. That was actually a loss to the Browns. All those games were losses. The Browns got away from the run, and the Steelers did a good job. Let's tip the cap to the opponent. They did a heck of a job in shutting down the run, and at times mauled the Browns O-line, banged up or healthy. All of it. You need to put him in a better position. Shedeur Sanders, we haven't talked about this, was the surprise number 2 quarterback. I really thought it was going to be Bailey Zappi. It ended up being Shedeur Sanders. He would just be the better option. That's who they thought. But Stefanski made it clear today that Gabriel is still his starter. It's actually kind of an interesting matchup this week because you got the 2 Hawaiian lefties. And it's the first lefty matchup since I totally forgot. It's a Chris Sims and somebody game, how many ever years ago, whatever it was. It's a battle of Hawaiian lefties and a battle of one-win teams here that badly, Charles, need a win.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt about that. And I mean, it's, as you said about the number of attempts, the reason why that's always bad, and I would argue most of the time it's bad with veterans, means you're one-dimensional. Whatever game you're playing, you're absolutely playing one-dimensional football, and you're not supposed to do that. And, I would have thought the Browns would have had more balance. I was stunned that they, Quinshon Judkins, I think, had like 12 carries. It's not at all what touches, I thought of. Yeah, I mean, not what I thought going into a Steelers game. But, you talk about the 2 lefties going against each other and Tua Tagovailoa and what's going on in Miami right now. Some messy situations definitely at quarterback. I don't understand why Kevin Stefanski has to keep reiterating that Dillon Gabriel is a starting quarterback. I mean, we just got into this. So are you going to give him time and go through the lumps, or are we going to start talking about, pulling the plug on him, which is why I was stunned. I thought for sure it was going to be Bailey Zappi as the experienced veteran backup. When it becomes Shedeur, interestingly enough, and I do think this is a question. When Shedeur was named the number 2 quarterback, I had some people from around the NFL ask me my opinion. Do you think that there's some kind of separation occurring here between what Kevin Stefanski wants and planned for and what the front office and maybe ownership wants and planned for? Because I think the presumption was that Kevin wanted a veteran starter. If a rookie was going to be the starter, whether it was Shedeur or Dillon Gabriel, he was going to make sure he had a veteran backup there. So to put Shedeur in that situation, everybody knows what it invites. We'll see ultimately where it goes. It's not the train wreck I think that Miami is right now, which is saying something. The difference is the problems in Miami are with a quarterback who's making what, $52, $53 million a year in Tua.
Ouch.
And the problems there that the Browns have already lived through that, and they're about to exit from that in a very difficult, salary cap maneuver. But, Miami moving forward with Tua, we can talk about what happened with Tua. Now I think there's some food for thought on the ownership level with the Miami Dolphins about what exactly is going on inside the organization, whether Stephen Ross needs to roll his sleeves up as owner and get in there and figure out exactly what the problems are.
We'll do that coming up in a second. I just want to clean up the note here, and it's from Jack Andrade, who is the man behind some of the great NFL research notes you do see. He's the guy that also leads up NFL Network's research team for the draft as well. Jack does an amazing job, and Jack pointed out last night, this is the first lefty-lefty NFL starting quarterback battle since Mike Vick and the Falcons in a division game against Chris Sims and the Bucks in Week 2, 2006. As Jack notes, to avenge a Sims over Vick sweep, Frank, in the 2005 season.
What a time capsule! Chris Sims, one of the great all-time guys. So, he's awesome to talk to. Chris Sims came through Denver. I really like him. But yeah, just Mike Vick, one of the great, exciting players. Let's go watch. I'm sure that game's on YouTube. Let's watch it when we're done here.
Real quick before we get out of here,
watch Mike Vick.
Real quick before we throw it to break, I just will tell you one of my most memorable early career, covering the NFL memories, was sitting at the Wide World of Sports complex during the preseason when the Buccaneers were working out, and just hearing John Gruden light up Chris Sims because he could not say the plays. He just couldn't get the play. It was some of the funniest coach ripping your presumptive possible starting quarterback exchanges I've ever seen. Poor Chris. I remember just sitting there and be like, Chris Sims is in a nightmare right now. He's just living in a nightmare.
This is John Gruden and his love and then falling out of love with quarterbacks in a nutshell. It would go like this. Hey, I got to get that quarterback. So they get him that quarterback. And then a couple of weeks later, he'll walk into the cafeteria or someone's office and go, this guy sucks. Why do we have this quarterback? Coach, you wanted him. I need that quarterback. So they get that quarterback. 3 weeks later, this guy's awful. Why do we have this quarterback? Coach, you wanted that quarterback. Okay, I want this one. Then you get my point. Then it keeps going and going. Coming up next, how about the quarterback in Miami? You know what? Tua said the inside part out loud. Sometimes we as the media love it. You know what happened today? The former players in the media all went, Tua, we hate it. That's coming up next on Inside Coverage. All right, let's get to the Dolphins. Welcome back to Inside Coverage. Andrew Siciliano, Charles Robinson, and Frank Schwab. Dolphins lose again. Inexplicably, they seemingly have the Chargers beaten. They can't tackle Lad McConkey. He breaks free with under a minute left and sets up a Dicker the Kicker game-winning field goal. And here we have the Dolphins at 1-5, heading to Cleveland in a battle of 1-5 teams. It's a different Tua this year. It's a Tua that is willing to take a little more ownership and a little more leadership and call out Tyreek Hill and say, he's got to do better. Okay, cool, we get that. But I don't know that we had ever heard this from Tua after the game like we did Sunday.
I think it starts with the leadership in helping articulate that for the guys, and then what we're expecting out of the guys, right? We're expecting this. Are we getting that? Are we not getting that? We have guys showing up to player-only meetings late, guys not showing up to player-only meetings. There's a lot that goes into that. Do we have to make this mandatory? Do we not have to make this mandatory? So it's a lot of things of that nature that we got to get cleaned up, and it starts with the little things like that.
Interesting. Mike McDaniel clarified that those meetings are more like extra film sessions, like players get together and they watch some film. These aren't like mandatory players-only meetings where everyone tries to, batten down the hatches or whatever cliche you want and try to get the team back on track. Mike McDaniel tried to clean that up and said that he spoke to Tua and said that probably isn't the right form. Guys, this one took on a life of its own because we in the media always like, hey, thanks for the candor. We love when you give us quotes. We love the honesty and the transparency. But to a man, honestly, from former players now in the media, everybody said, Tua, you are in the wrong. Manti Te'o, who I love, was on Good Morning Football today. The well-traveled former linebacker, Notre Dame Saints, among other places, Chargers. And Manti said, listen, Tua and I are friends. Like, we're not the best of friends, but we're certainly more than acquaintances. Both Hawaiian, obviously, they go way back. And he said, I don't necessarily know this Tua. Like, Tua's always been the happy, positive, spin it forward guy. And it seems like that while trying to take on this new leadership role this year, he's kind of morphed into somebody he isn't. And he's cleaning up other people's messes. And this was a bad look. Paraphrasing what Manti said. Like, this is not the right look. You turn on ESPN and pretty much every other former player is saying the same thing. Deshaun Hamilton, well-traveled former wide receiver, Penn State's all-time leading receiver when he left Happy Valley, tweeted this last night, and it got millions of views. This dude, the starting quarterback, was late to the first team meeting during and he admits he wasn't there long, 3 seconds on the Dolphins, and everything was all cool in there. Charles, unpack this one.
Look, here's the thing. When Tua talks about leadership, I think now knowing the context, and we knew the context late yesterday. I wrote about this, that, hey, this is basically an extra credit session that he's talking about. It's not the typical players-only meetings where you're like, oh, it's falling apart. They're holding player-only meetings to clean things up, and people are just not showing up to that. So it's a little different. But again, when you call out the leadership, the question with Tua is like, are you talking about yourself, or are you talking about the coaching staff? Are you talking about the front office? Yeah, you also 3 picks today. Like, where are you putting yourself in the midst of this? And to me, I think what happened here and why it's bad for the organization is this is usually something where it's like, just don't air it out on the podium, right? Keep it in-house. You bring it to the coaches. You bring it to other leaders on the team. Bring it to the leadership council. Don't take it outside. Because when you take it outside, and this is what I effectively wrote, for all the last 2 seasons, going back to the first month of the 2024 season, this has all been like handed off, the problems, right? Right now it's a Mike McDaniel problem. Right now it's a Tua problem. Right now it's potentially a Cat problem, or it's a Tyreek problem. It's always been shuffled back and forth. When you go to the podium and you speak the way Tua did, you turn it into a Stephen Jones problem, right? You turn it into an ownership problem. And that's ultimately, to me, what I took away from that. If you're Stephen Jones and you're sitting there, I'm sorry, Stephen Ross. I apologize. I apologize. Yeah, again, total brain cramp there. If you're Stephen Ross and you're sitting there and you're watching this, you're saying to yourself, what's going on? Like, do I have to roll up my sleeves and get into the organization and go to Mike McDaniel and say, why is he speaking like this? Is there something else going on I don't know about? You go to Tua and you go, is there an issue with the coaching staff? Where are the disconnects here? And again, that's only because you're $50 million plus quarterback, which might be why he's taking on a little bit of a different role these days. Maybe he's trying to justify that paycheck off the field because he's not justifying it on the field. So he's pressing. You have to find out what exactly is transpiring when a guy calls out leadership and go, exactly what are you talking about when you say there's some kind of a leadership carry here?
Yes, Stephen Ross, the same leader who tampered with another team's quarterback and cost his team a draft pick. That guy, yeah. Let's send him in to fix everything because he's been such a great owner. Talk about the bad ownership.
Remember, they had a
NFL.
meeting. Sorry, Frank. Remember, they had a meeting after the loss last week to the Panthers. Stephen Ross met with Mike McDaniel. Now, whether or not that was
fixed everything,
something out of the ordinary, or excuse me, what just happened here, that kind of meeting. Either way, I cut you off. Keep going.
Yeah, I view Tua's statement as he's kind of fed up and doesn't know what else to do. Do we really think that the only thing going wrong with the Dolphins is a couple players are late to a extra credit players only meeting? No, because after last season, Mike McDaniel himself aired a lot of guys out saying, we try to find guys for being late to meetings and it still doesn't matter. What happened a year before that? They ran off Vic Fangio. Vic Fangio. They ran him off because he was coaching them too hard. The players just came out and said, oh, we don't really mesh with his style, blah, blah, blah. He goes to the Eagles who are like, oh, yeah, we love Vic Fangio, and he takes them to a Super Bowl. Like, it just says to me, everything about the Dolphins needs to be blown up. If you would have told me today, hey, an NFL coach got fired, I would have said, oh, wow, who are the Dolphins going to hire next? Oh, it's the Titans? Oh, okay, well, that makes sense too. Mike McDaniel, if they go and lose to the 1-5 Browns, I don't know that he's our coach for another week after that. Like, and I think that I think the front office needs to change. I think the coaching staff needs to change. I think the roster needs to be overturned because there's clearly something wrong here. It's not just Tua randomly getting up on the podium and saying, well, some guys relate to this extra credit thing. It is everything going wrong with the Dolphins. Okay. Everything. And he shouldn't have done it. I don't think he should have done it. But I'm just saying there's a lot wrong with the Dolphins right now, and they need a complete hit the reset button, factory reset, start this thing over.
You also just played the Chargers and the quarterback you passed to draft Tua.
Yeah.
You passed on Justin Herbert. He goes the pick after Tua. So that speaks to the front office too. Like, where are they in this, right? Like, because if you ask me, they clearly picked the wrong quarterback. Everybody. And Frank, how dare you criticize Stephen Ross cheating to try and get Sean Payton and Tom Brady together in Miami? Okay, like just shut your mouth. Let's go ahead and let that happen. That is a timeline I would have loved to have seen. So Frank, put a cork in it and let Stephen Ross do what he thinks he needs to do.
It's also one of the most forgotten recent scandals
That's amazing.
In the NFL. Like, if you go down the street and ask the average fan, hey, do you remember the time the Dolphins got docked draft picks because they tried to finagle Sean Payton and Tom Brady to Miami?
100% happened.
Wait, what?
I'm
like,
sorry,
no,
Dolphins
that
fans.
actually happened.
Oh, my God.
Wait, was that like some crazy Netflix, like, dramatization, like fun football kind of wacky drama thing? No, that actually happened.
But fun little fact. Fun little fact here. I don't know if he would ever admit to it, but the greatest part about this is there was a point in all this when Sean Payton's literally out on a golf course thinking it's done. Like, it's done. I'm the next coach of the Dolphins and Tom Brady's going to be my quarterback. Like, there was a point there where he's literally, putting on a green thinking, yep, it's going to be me and Tom Brady in Miami. Let's see where this goes. Man, that timeline.
Was it Kevin James who played Sean Payton in a movie?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Would Kevin James play him again if we do this again?
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah, let's do it.
I mean, of all the guys, and I respect Kevin James, of all the guys you get to play Sean Payton, you get Kevin James? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like,
I don't know who
I'm looking up here. I'm watching the pregame shows as we record this. Jeremy Piven was on set. Jeremy Piven would have been a good Sean Payton. A little bit of age difference, clearly. Right, yeah. But he's got the energy, right? Maybe I'm just thinking of his character back from Entourage. But I could see him as Sean Payton.
Yeah.
Kevin James.
Oh, he's got the you got to be kind of pissy, honestly, for lack of a better word, like to play the Sean Payton role. You have to be able to pull that off.
And ever tell you about the time I was sitting next to Jeremy Piven on the flight home from the Super Bowl one day when he got bumped out of first class? No?
No. What?
It's like 100 years ago. I honestly don't remember what Super Bowl it was, which is such an uppity thing to say.
There's no way this was Entourage, right? This couldn't have been during Entourage. There's no way.
It was right around, it was like the early days of Entourage. Was there a Super Bowl in Houston way back in the day? What Super Bowl was that?
Panthers, Patriots.
04. Yeah.
Panthers, it was Patriots, that one. 04. It was that one. Okay. Yeah. So flying home the next morning, and I'm in the exit row. Maybe not. Whatever. I'm in coach in the exit row. And all I know is that, like, the door you hear the door closes, and then all of a sudden, bam, Jeremy Piven plops down next to me. And I'm like,
hug it out.
Okay. Anyway, we take off. And then shortly after takeoff, Flight attendant comes down the aisle with like a bottle of champagne saying, "Sir, we are so sorry. Like, can we give this to you to make it up?" Takes it. Looks at me, he's like, "You want a bottle of champagne?" I'm like, no. It's like Monday morning, dude. I'm good. Anyway, so I guess the story was, you guys know, like airport security the morning after a Super Bowl is an utter disaster. Absolute disaster. No matter what town you're in. Sometimes handle it better than other.
Andrew, are you saying he offered you champagne?
You said
like they brought him a bottle of champagne. Basically, what it was he got there so late, probably a fight with trouble getting through security, that they bounced him out of first, right? And they already assigned somebody that seat. Somebody got upgraded. Sir, come on up. You're sitting in 3A, and so they gave his seat to somebody else. And then he's running through the airport, and he gets there, and they're like, "Oh," and so they tried to make it up to him.
You can't.
By sitting him next to you. Hey, you can sit next to Andrew Siciliano.
Yeah,
you know him off the TV.
You know what Siciliano told him? He said, "Hey, I don't want none of your stinking champagne, but watch me recline." You cannot be someone who both reclines into the face of the person behind you and also the same person who doesn't split a bottle of champagne with Jeremy Piven on a flight. Sign me up for that every day.
He wasn't drinking it either. He wasn't drinking it either. It's like one of those, like, thanks, but I don't need a bottle of champagne on a Monday morning. That kind of thing, right? Like, I'm sorry. Like, God bless. Like, there's that one guy in every flight, and I don't want to judge, but there's that one guy on every flight that's, it's like 6 a.m. and you're taking off, and some people are immediately going to sleep, and some people are opening up their laptop and they're pounding coffee because they have a business meeting when they land, right? And then there's that other guy that when you take off at 6 a.m., "Sir, can I get you a drink?" Yeah, I'll take a Bloody Mary. Or, you know
double.
What? Oh, can I do
take some of Jeremy Piven's champagne, please?
Yeah, can I do a double on the rocks?
Yeah.
Like, that guy always impresses me. That's not who he was. Both of us were like, it's Monday morning, man. I don't need like a bottle of booze at 6 a.m., the first thing burning out from Houston. I don't need it.
You had your Tyler Durden Fight Club single serving friend on the flight. You had it. Yeah. That could have been. It's a good story.
Could have been.
Man, it had potential.
Could have been unbelievable. It could have been.
I might have made it up. I hope it's true. It was 20 years ago. I just didn't make that up. But it's one of those stories that's been in my head. I know I didn't make this up.
No.
Go ahead.
I would have immediately said to myself, "I'm getting myself and Jeremy Piven kicked off a plane today."
No.
Jeremy Piven and an unidentified man in a Tigers hat got taken off a plane today.
Did not happen. What did happen is Brian Branch got suspended this afternoon. Brian Branch, the Lions safety, threw a punch at Juju Smith-Schuster after the game. The Lions, rather the Chiefs, beat the Lions. Lions are kind of ticked off. A lot of things didn't go their way. And yeah, it was the typical, I can't believe the Chiefs are getting the call kind of night if you're a Lions fan. Afterwards, he didn't want to shake Mahomes' hand, and then Juju Smith stuck his hand out, Juju Smith-Schuster rather, and Branch hit him in the side of the head. Branch had already been fined 3 times this season, 1 for taunting, 1 for a face mask, also a low block against the Ravens. And last year, and this is what's important here, Branch was fined 7 times. I don't think he's a dirty player. He's one of the better defensive backs in the NFL. But Brian Branch very often gets an envelope in his locker at the end of the week. And the league said, you know what? You punch a guy in the post-game handshake scrum, you deserve to be suspended. Why was he upset? Well, he was upset, Frank, because there was a play at one point of the game where Juju Smith-Schuster blocked him. Branch says from behind. If you look at the tape, it's from the side. He leveled him, and then he stepped over him. No flag on that.
Style.
And then on the Mahomes touchdown run, Mahomes, in my mind, got away with what could be called taunting under the new rules. He spun the ball at Branch's feet, but then he backed up. He backpedaled and kind of like, danced his way backwards as that ball was spinning. Branch clearly didn't like it, but I don't care if you don't like it. You can't punch a dude in the side of the helmet when everyone's shaking hands after the game.
Yeah, it was and the fact that it happened on Sunday Night Football with this massive audience did not help Brian Branch whatsoever. But I think all of the fines, at some point, you say, okay, Brian, calm down a little bit. Take a week off and think about it. That was a big loss for the Lions. Their secondary is already depleted. You could tell Dan Campbell wasn't happy after the game, saying basically we don't do that stuff around here. Mahomes was just seething. Like that NBC interview after the game was awkward. That's how angry Mahomes was, just saying like, yeah, we don't do stuff after the whistle. We play hard, but like it was just like, wow. And Charles, I know you said this when we were off the air, and I agree. Can we get these two teams in the Super Bowl? I don't necessarily want to cover the Chiefs in another Super Bowl, but my goodness, would this be theater?
Yeah. No, I like this. I mean, I grew up in Michigan when the Colorado Avalanche and Detroit Red Wings, man, you just knew. You're like, hey, there's some stored up fights that are coming. You know, the good old days of like hockey games where before they would drop the puck, guys were shaking their gloves off, and you're like, here we go.
Yeah,
they're just going to go ahead and fight. They're like not even going to start. They're going to go ahead and start fighting. When I saw it happen, I was texting our NFL editor last night, and I'm saying, it's stupid, it's selfish. You can't do this. Because you're going to get, and I said it last night, I said he's going to get suspended at least a game. As Andrew said,
I didn't think he
7
would.
fines.
Surprised.
I mean, the 7 fines last year, you're starting to get into Mark Carrier numbers for the old heads who can remember what Mark Carrier was as a safety for the Chicago Bears. Yeah. But, so I'm thinking, he's definitely getting fined here. And what I said to the NFL editor, I said, no, what you do in this instance, you do the Cortland Finnegan, Andre Johnson. You just bank it. And you go, the next time I see this guy, there's going to be a fight. There's going to be some retribution, but I'm not going to do it now because we face the Tampa Bay Buccaneers next week and Baker Mayfield. And this is the secondary is already depleted. So I'm not going to put us in this position. Instead, I'll bank it and I'll see him down the road. And like Frank said, I hope it is in the Super Bowl because that felt like, the way Patrick Mahomes reacted after the game, the chippiness of it, the fact that the Lions felt like they got handled, the fact that they didn't like the flag situation. I'm like, ooh, there's some animosity here, and I would like to see this in a championship stage.
Yeah, sign me up for that one. I agree. Sign me up for that one. If we get the Chiefs and the Lions in the Super Bowl, it was that rare game of the year, of the week, that lived up to the hype last night. Sunday night fights with Brian Branch getting suspended. I also think Juju might have, exaggerated his fall, but he did.
A little bit.
He did get punched a little bit. I mean, no TikTok dance. Not this time, but a little bit. Either way, Brian Branch gets suspended, and that will be the suspension of this show as well. Charles, Frank, it's been fun. Go watch your Monday night doubleheader, except they're not spaced out. They're an hour apart. I'm going to be the grumpy old man on my lawn screaming about the Monday night schedule, but I think this is the last one. So fear not. You don't have to hear me scream about it or just complain like a grumpy old man again. We'll be back, however, on Tuesday's show when Raven safety Kyle Hamilton will be here. For Charles, for Frank, I'm Andrew. Thanks for listening to and watching Inside